20 years ago, the gay community was, its own bubble community. And there's been a lot of probably welcomed mainstreaming. Welcome for the community's empowerment, but maybe challenging for a company that targets gays and lesbians. You have different competition. You can find gay content on many different other platforms that are more general audience. How do you work through that?
Well, I think a couple things. One, it's looking at the world on a global level. I don't look at LGBT as a community. I look at it as a population and the sort of diaspora of LGBT, if you will. So what used to be so relegated to a piece is now much larger, and that's one thing that we've watched in the last 8 or 9 years, just at Here TV. Like our audience, our accessibility, and who is identifying as LGBT has changed dramatically, and thus the external view from the rest of the world of what LGBT is and where it sort of fits comfortably into the schematic of the rest, not just entertainment, but sort of world politics and the social aspects of it has changed dramatically as well. I think we're in a really exciting moment for LGBT content creation because we are really on that cusp. I mean, just politically what's happening in our country, and still looking globally, a lot of work to be done. I think it's amazing how much content includes LGBT characters now, or sort of references to sort of LGBT subject matter, but it still isn't a full representation of who the population of gays and lesbians and bisexual people and transgender people really are. So I feel like we still have a lot of work to do, and especially at this moment, to make sure that we're not all one thing, we're as diverse as any sector of the population, and that we can't tell every story, but we can tell many, many stories that still aren't being told.
You have a group of print publications. Print is having its own obstacles right now. But let's talk a little bit about The Advocate. What are plans for it?
Advocate is actually our largest digital site in the Here Media family, and the exciting part is that the print edition of The Advocate is returning to newsstands, and if it hasn't already, it will with the next issue.
And what made the decision to do that?
I just think it was time again. I think that the sort of editorial folks and the managing folks at the Advocate and our boss Paul felt that it was time to bring it back to newsstands.
So you have Here Media, you have Logo. What is the point of differentiation?
Well, this is something that has been sort of ongoing for since both the networks launched. So there was Here TV, and there was Logo, and I think the outside forces want us to have some sort of dramatic, sort of gay battle, but we don't at all. And in fact, if you look over my shoulder, you can see into their offices. In New York particularly, if you wanted to work in gay television, 8 years ago, you either went to Logo or you went to Here TV. So, it's a bunch of my friends who work over there as well, and we're always sort of, joking and comparing notes and trying to keep things, on a professional level. We don't really consider Logo our direct competition because we are a premium service. So we look at what Showtime is doing, and we look at what Starz Network is doing, and what Cinemax is doing, and what Encore's is doing. Logo's a basic cable channel. They have other challenges. They have to find advertisers to support their original content, which is a really, really challenging hurdle in this day and age. And I'm grateful that we can go a different route. I mean, we produce content and we rely on our subscribers to continue to create that. So there's no real dramatic sort of horn locking, if you will, between Here TV and Logo. I also feel like we need them to sort of bounce off of. Without them, we're just sort of a beacon in the, alone in the dark. And I don't know. I sometimes feel like they're a little bit of like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. You never really know what's coming out of their gates until it comes out. They're very private. So, you hear rumors about this and you hear rumors about that, but I don't know what their programming initiatives are for the next year. But yeah, they just sort of, I'm sure Bravo's probably more concerned about it than we are.
I'm thinking also in terms of programming choices. Are there ever times when you're competing for the same program, or you find that you've developed a very similar program, or does it even matter?
Not really. I mean, one, we have an in-house production facility, so we do a lot of stuff literally ourselves. We don't job out a great deal. If we acquire something, it's pretty much done at this point. There's a couple series that we're looking at to, sort of go and hire an outside crew. But for the most part, we're a one-stop shop. So that's a big difference. So we can also test things on a very, very sort of micro budget level and see like, hey, does anybody care about this? So we don't have the same pressure to create something that is going to sell. We can pilot things a little easier. And in terms of similar programming, we still have the main difference is that we don't have, we have I think an MA17 rating. So the range of what we can show and how far we can show is, we still use, Queer as Folk as being the sort of demarcation point for us, our sort of outside point. And we feel like it's a little more authentic to our stories. So, they have other challenges about, maintaining a sort of basic cable guideline. So yeah, programmatically we can do very different things.